Now, I think it's safe to say that that was an ending to Season 3 of The Mandalorian that many of us didn't exactly see coming, which is maybe kind of odd when you consider that was, in some ways, the most obvious or predictable or safe ending there possibly could have been. I mean, there was no sort of twist or big reveal or major legacy character showing up to save the day in the end, and no shocking revelation or setup for future shows in the Mando-Verse time period. Not even a post-credit scene to maybe give us a look at Thrawn and to be some sort of segue into the Ahsoka series coming up in August. Instead, it was just a simple ending of a father and son enjoying life after a finale that saw no major character death on the side of the good guys, unless you count Paz Vizsla at the end of the previous episode. It then also saw the likely death of the overarching villain of the past 3 seasons with Moff Gideon's demise, and everyone got some sort of win, especially the Mandalorians on the whole who took back their planet, found it can still support plant life, and relit the Great Forge to light the way into a bright future for them on their homeworld. And what it certainly didn't have was any sort of big, shocking twist or betrayal or major character death like some of the leaks and rumors said would happen or that some theorized, including myself. This wasn't some earth-shattering finale, and the big twist, it turns out, was that there wasn't a twist, and our expectations were subverted by not having them subverted, even though all the fuss about something crazy happening wasn't completely unfounded. Because there still is, or was, that very strange Instagram post by Brendan Wayne, and for the record, or if you don't know, he's one of the 2 stunt doubles who are often in the Mando suit along with Lateef Crowder. And he, Brendan Wayne, posted on Instagram or posted in response to someone else who had said they couldn't wait for next week's season finale after season 7 had aired. And so he said or posted that this episode, speaking of the finale, is going to make you wish you hadn't asked for more. It might just hurt too much. Which, looking back at that now, after the episode, it feels like a really odd thing to say and makes you wonder what in the world was he talking about? Because at face value, at least, nothing about that episode hurt at all, at least in terms of anything that happened in the story. You may feel like the episode hurt because it wasn't as good as you maybe hoped for. But again, in story, that was the most happy ending you might ever see in Star Wars. And when compared to the previous 2 season finales, this was rather tame in comparison, especially the season 2 finale with Luke Skywalker. And so, assuming that Brendan Wayne either wasn't A, misinformed about what was going to happen in the finale, I mean, it's not like he would have been privy to the entire script, so he may have heard something was going to happen that actually didn't. Or B, he wasn't just trying to mess with all of us by making us think something tragic was going to happen when it actually wasn't. Anyway, assuming neither of those or something else like it is the case, that he was being genuine and thought we'd feel this episode was going to hurt, what in the world could he possibly mean? And, well, to speculate or to theorize, which, yeah, in a way, maybe got us into this mess in the first place, reading too much into things that turned out to be irrelevant, or just making crazy guesses, or running with unfounded rumors. Though I'd argue that, for better or worse, that's part of the fun of the Star Wars fandom these days. Making up theories and talking Star Wars. Plus, as I just said, the previous season finale kinda, you could say, set a precedence for huge things happening. Anyway, if he was being serious, which I'd imagine he was, what would have been painful about the episode itself or that ending? Well, honestly, I can only think of one thing, which is that it's, in a way, the end of The Mandalorian as we know it. The end of Din Djarin and Din Grogu's story, for now, at least. Because it's not like we'll never see the characters again, or that we won't still see them pretty often, I'd imagine. I mean, there's no way Disney and Lucasfilm would sideline those 2 for any real length of time when they have become the face and arguably saviors of the Disney Star Wars era. But it really could be that The Mandalorian will not feature them next season, that it'll switch to Bo-Katan, the Armorer, and the rebuilding of Mandalore, which, though, yeah, could be and likely would still be good and interesting. As I've said before, I've enjoyed Bo-Katan's story this season, and for better or worse, she certainly got more of one than Din and Grogu did. But it would still hurt to lose these 2 as the centerpiece of the Mandalorian series, especially if you're Brendan Wayne and playing the character is not only your job, but probably something you absolutely love the chance to get to do. However, maybe it isn't Pedro Pascal's favorite thing to do. Not that I'm trying to imply he doesn't love the character either, but he is, as we know, a very busy man with a lot of other roles to play. And I mean, when you figure the helmet didn't come off one single time this season, that could easily mean he wasn't on set one single time this season. And that Brendan and Lateef literally did all the physical work in the suit for him, and he just recorded the lines at some point. And thus, when you figure how much time Brendan puts into the character over, say, Pedro Pascal, potentially, it could make it very painful to lose the character full time. And so it could then very easily be that the peaceful ending, the way the episode ends with the kinda Looney Tunes style fade out, was meant to say, that's all, folks, for now. And the talking to Captain Teva thing about working for the New Republic, hunting down Imperial remnants, was either their way of explaining what they'd be up to in the meantime until we see them again, or perhaps it was to set up those two characters moving to another show part-time, that they will be a part of Rangers of the New Republic, a series that got announced a little over 2 years ago, and that many speculate was supposed to feature the character of Cara Dune, but that it got shelved after the firing of Gina Carano, and it's quite likely that the show was meant to introduce or tackle some pretty important elements of the whole Mando-Verse time period. I even think we saw some of them shoved into this season of The Mandalorian, with the third episode, the one featuring Dr. Pershing, being the most obvious and overt example of this. And though I enjoyed that episode, I don't think it was the most popular overall, let's just say. I think it felt too different for many viewers. In other words here, they clearly don't want to scrap the stories or all the setup that was planned for Rangers of the New Republic and have now adjusted. They included some of it in this season of The Mandalorian, and it got mixed results. So I think there's a good chance we'll still see that show. And I don't think it would just be about Mando and Grogu. I think Captain Teva, maybe even Zeb, as well as some new characters or some very fun familiar faces like Wedge perhaps, could make up the full cast. Or maybe that won't be the case at all. Maybe Season 4 of The Mandalorian will simply still be about Grogu and Din Djarin. Maybe it'll be back to its roots to some degree, and focus primarily and almost exclusively on them while adding a little here and there to the overarching narrative of the time period, which would be very easy to do if these two are just taking missions for the New Republic off the book missions and uncovering what's really going on with the Imperial Remnant. In fact, that sounds like it could be a lot of fun. It sounds very similar to, say, Season 1, but also incorporating the larger scope and scale. Though that would leave the question of what about the other Mandalorians, because it's hard to believe that the main focus of this season, the retaking of Mandalore and the building up of a character like Bo-Katan, is just going to be in a sense dropped or assumed to be all okay now. In fact, many feel that the point of this season was to kind of hand off the show to Bo-Katan. Not to mention, we still have the question of what will be the way going forward for this mixed group of Mandalorians. Will they just get along now, with some taking off their helmets and others not? Or will it be, and I think this is the most likely, will it be a bumpy road for them as they try to rebuild without everyone exactly being on the same page? And so if I had to make a final guess here, and I could very easily be wrong, and I'm not going to be surprised when in the coming days there is some sort of announcement that proves me wrong. But anyway, if I had to make a guess, I do think Rangers of the New Republic is still a thing, or will be again, and that Din Djarin and Din Grogu will be in that show. And their presence will certainly help lure in viewers to the no-name show, though I don't think they'll be the main focus. And I think The Mandalorian will become the Bo-Katan show. I do think this season was about handing it off to her, or could easily be. And there even have been, for whatever it's worth, there have been rumors that she is getting her own show. And then both will continue to build the time period, both The Mandalorian under the stewardship of Bo-Katan and Rangers of the New Republic, including Din Djarin and Din Grogu. They'll all continue to build up this time period to this eventual culmination movie. Well, that's all I got for this time. Now it's your turn to tell me what you think the ending of this season of The Mandalorian meant. Was it meant to be a goodbye to Grogu and Din Djarin for now? Could they be moving to another show? Or was it just meant to be a fun, happy ending for a change and they'll be back doing their thing in Season 4? Whatever you think, leave those comments below and let's talk some Star Wars. And until next time, thanks for watching.